Now that Biden has authorized Ukraine to shoot missiles into Russia, Russia has now declared that they will be using nuclear weapons if they choose to, in response to anyone that attacks them in their territory. Let's tune into the video, see what's going on out here in these streets.
The British-made Storm Shadow cruise missiles have been used on at least one target inside Russia for the first time. Reports indicate they hit a target in the southwestern region of Kursk. Russian military bloggers have posted photos of what they say are fragments of Storm Shadow missiles from a village near that area. Powerful explosions can be heard on unverified video purportedly shot there as well. Well, all of that follows a day after Ukraine fired US-made ballistic missiles known as ATACMS in the neighbouring Russian region of Bryansk. Moscow has promised it will respond to any strike on Russian territory that uses long-range Western weapons. Washington is also providing Ukraine with anti-personnel landmines to try to slow the advance of Russian troops. Well, the UK's Defence Secretary, John Healey, he has been speaking in the House of Commons today. He wouldn't directly confirm those reports I was talking about UK missiles when he was speaking there a little earlier, and said Ukraine's action on the battlefield speaks for itself.
My understanding is also that Storm Shadow has been fired for the first time into Russia. It's very important to bear in mind it has been used inside Ukraine. It's been used against Russian targets, I think in Crimea, but also in other parts of occupied Ukraine. But this is a threshold that has been crossed. It's a big step. And it's a big step because the Americans were reluctant to authorize this, because as far as I understand, there in some degree of American data sharing and intelligence was important in the employment of these weapons for maximum effectiveness.
See, this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. I remember I was on somebody's live the other day, and we were talking about this war, Ukraine versus Russia. And I was telling them, y'all don't understand that we actually in war. And they had the nerve to tell me, we ain't in war. The U.S. is not at war. We just supplying the weapons and supplying the training and supplying some troops to help train the Ukrainian soldiers. Hello? We're in war. What are you talking about? They're using our weapons. We're supplying the weapons to them. It's our bombs. And you're talking about we ain't in war? Have you lost y'all mind? Of course we're in war. This is World War III. They had the nerve to tell me, no. A few weeks later, we hear now, U.S. is letting Ukraine shoot missiles into Russia in response to what they have been doing for the past 2-3 years. Oh, but we're not at war. Because they're calling the shots still. U.S. is calling the shots clearly. It could have happened years ago. They could have started bombing Russia years ago. But they waited till now. Unfortunate that we are actually here. Because a year ago, even before that, it was seeming like this would have settled down. This would have been over. This would have, we all thought that this would have been a quick operation. But clearly, the United States is helping 100%. And not only the United States, now we're seeing that reports of UK, they're also using UK missiles to shoot into Russia, which means it's not just the United States. It's the entire NATO country, the NATO allies. All of them are now targeting Russia because of this. World War III. And Putin now is saying, okay, since y'all want to target me, even though I started this, this is how I'm going to end it. We talking nuclear power now. We talking nukes. Let's see who got the bigger rockets. That's the mindset of Putin. He doesn't care how many troops he done lost. He don't care how many civilians is about to die. He want to say, let's shoot rocket for rocket. United States, UK, Germany, Poland against me. This is crazy. Honestly, it's crazy, and I hope to see it stop soon. I really do. But it don't really look like it's going to stop.
What is surprising is the sheer number of Storm Shadow that is reported to have been fired. I think it's about 10 or 12 according to the videos, according to some of the Russian accounts. That's going to be, I think, a very significant proportion of the sheer overall stockpile Ukraine has to begin with, because they really haven't got many.
A real quick answer exactly on that. What is your understanding about the numbers of Storm Shadow, the French missiles as well, and ATACMS?
The answer is it's small. I don't know the exact number. If I had the exact number, I might be hesitant about publishing it for obvious reasons, but I can say it is small. So Ukraine has to pick every target with extreme care.
Now, of course, the fear is that Ukraine's defence on their eastern flank is getting close to collapse. What is your assessment of the Russian gains in those areas and any sort of likelihood of a major breakthrough by them?
Well, the central front is the most significant problem, the bit in the middle in Donetsk province, and Russia has been gaining ground. If nothing else changes, if Ukraine particularly doesn't fix its problems with manpower on this part of the front, a collapse is entirely possible by the spring. I wouldn't say by Christmas, by the spring. Now, that doesn't mean Russia can simply rush through to Dnipro, Odessa, other big Ukrainian cities. The Russian army is also tired, it's also weakened. But what Ukrainians worry about, what they tell me in the last few days, is that if the North Korean expeditionary force in Kursk, if this becomes a pipeline, a steady supply, in other words, we see tens and tens of thousands of North Koreans rather than 10,000 flat, that could become a serious problem for Ukraine.
Perhaps the landmines may...
Listen here, man. It's already a serious problem. It's been a serious problem. And if the Ukrainian people did not have the NATO allies that they have helping them out, they would have been wiped out by now. That's just the honest truth. They couldn't have done it without NATO. They couldn't have done it without NATO. And they should have really announced this earlier, that they pretty much are in NATO. They should have just went with it. Because regardless of how we take it, regardless of which way you're trying to go with it, it's going to end up being the United States, UK, and NATO allies helping Ukraine 100% of the way. Unless they choose to leave it all alone. That's going to be the result of all of this. So I don't know why they waited and wishy-washed it and, pushed it to the side like the United States wasn't at war with Russia. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. And just stop lying to us. Stop lying to us. Tell us the truth. Let the people know what's actually going on, because the Russians already know. The North Koreans already get it. China don't like the United States. They just want our money. They're taking advantage. They're doing what they have to do. And who's to say? Who's to say that Ukraine isn't working with Russia at the same time? I'm not saying that, they are, but I'm just saying. Who's to say they aren't? Who's to say that Russia's not getting some very, very secretive information, top secret information from Zelensky? they're neighboring countries. They're neighboring uh, to each other. They have contact with each other. I know Ukraine's defending itself right now, but I'm pretty sure that they were they were peaceful at one point and they were working together. So how much information is out there that Russia has of the United States now too, and others? Not not everybody's taking that into consideration. Not saying that that's the thing that's happening. I'm just saying not everybody's taking that into consideration. We're on the brink of nuclear war because we're already at World War III. I don't care what anybody says. At this point, two wars going on, bunch of wars going on actually in the Middle East. Got Israel versus the Palestinians and Iran, pretty much the Iranian regime. Uh, it's the United States is in both of them. It's a world war. War is happening. A lot of people are dying. It's very extremely sad, but it's just the honest truth. And I wish people would stop lying. Just tell the truth. We don't have to hear it from the president only. We need to hear it from news networks. We need to hear it from those that are on the ground. This is a serious situation that we are in.
Take the place of personnel. Perhaps that's part of the equation of what we're seeing today. But of course, we're coming into the heavy winter now. How important is it that any gains that are made are done now in these next few weeks before really the winter sets in and there's little movement?
Well, that does matter because it is harder for armoured vehicles to operate on the ground in certain periods until the ground freezes properly. It is difficult for troops to be outside and conduct defences. However, having said all of that, Russia is fighting in very, very small assault detachments of a handful of troops in a single place. So the traditional constraints on armoured warfare over mushy ground in the winter months, a lot of that applies much less. The bit that does apply, it's quite interesting, is in a battlefield that is now saturated by drones. When you have a lack of foliage, a lack of tree cover, leaf cover, it makes it easier for drones to spot Russian forces on the move in open areas and for them to be attacked. So that will be a serious challenge for the Russians as the sort of landscape of Ukraine changes in the coming months.
A final thought, because what is your assessment of what happens in the early part of 2025? There are so many variables, what Ukraine is able to do in these next few months, what Moscow is able to do, and the change in dynamic of Donald Trump in the White House. What is your best guess at where that takes us in January, February, March?
Trump wants a deal. However, the question is, does he want a deal at any price? Or does he want leverage to force the Kremlin to the table to do a serious deal that will then have to be enforced? I think we don't know enough to say, but what I think you'll find is that things prove much more complicated than his initial demand to solve the war in a day, and he will actually have to grapple with some of these problems with his European allies, not just sloganeering.
Well, that was The Economist defence editor Shashank Joshi talking to me a little earlier, all the latest on the ground there.
I agree 100% too. This is not going to be just as easy as Trump is making it seem. I know he says, "Oh, I got the numbers of both leaders and this and that. He'll have this thing done before he's even in the office." But it would be amazing if he did. But after this announcement that Joe Biden just said, you could forget about that. You could forget about that. You're getting dealt a handful of cards, and they ain't in your favor. I'll be honest with you. It's not in Trump's favor. But I'd really like to know. I'd really like to see how he responds. And I'd really like him to be, I'd really like him to be strong. I'd like him to show his strength. Whether he supports Ukraine or show his strength, whether he has to rally the troops of NATO. Either way, show strength and let these other dictators know that the United States of America is still not to be messed with. At the end of the day, don't mess with us. Show them that. That's what we want to see. And that's what we're looking forward to seeing. Let me know y'all thoughts about this down in the comments below. I'd really like to know y'all thoughts. Was it a smart idea for Biden to allow Ukraine to use their missiles in Russian territory? Are we going to pay for it? Is Ukraine going to pay for it? Let me know. I appreciate y'all viewership. Make sure you guys leave a like on y'all way out. Hit that subscribe button too if y'all are new. Until next time, man. It's your boy Dgotsauce.